Well, good Monday, everyone. Hope you're having a great week so far. Just me, GCB here. Matt couldn't be on the show, and Moose is in hibernation. Actually, Moose takes a vacation 1 week out of the year, and this is Moose's vacation week. So you just got me. Before we get started, the views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are not necessarily those of the SCV, its GEC, any division, brigade, camps, or other subsidiaries. Strictly those of us who are expressing them, which this week would be me. Hope everybody's been having a great week. Hope everybody tuned in this past Thursday for the first live Commanders comments where Chief of Heritage Operation Ron Kennedy and Commander in Chief Jason Boshiers talked about things upcoming with the Confederation. If you missed it, it is on our Facebook and YouTube channel. Remember that we're on YouTube and TikTok as well as here on Facebook. Go back after this show and rewatch that episode. It was something good. For us to be able to be successful as members of the SCV, we need to be informed with what's going on with the national organization. Of course, we have the Confederate Veteran Magazine. We have the Telegraph that everybody should sign up for. But we also have SCV chat and commanders comments. So there's no reason for somebody not to be informed with what's going on in the organization. Really quickly, seeing who all is in the chat. See Linda, Johnny, Jude. It is the best intro ever. Carl did a good job on that. Fun fact, Carl's name is really spelled Bill, but it's pronounced Carl. Jimmy Hill, good evening, sir. Sean Hill, BK Turner, Ron Kennedy. How are you doing, Chief? Sean McFall. Also, y'all need to go check his quasi spinoff of our show off. Or show out, excuse me, look around Southwest Florida, where you can get news about what's going on in Southwest, as well as Christian Lee's Alamo City Guards chat. Check that out, and of course, we have our normal Thursday lineup. See, there it is right there. Herb Turner from Missouri, our good friend and author Michael C. Hardy. Sorry, I've been missing the past couple of chats. Michael does a chat on Sunday night on various historical topics and things of that nature. Michael, if you will put your time in there so everybody can see it. Usually Jason or myself are usually in there, but it's good fun. It's very historical, very, very. You learn a lot with it, and also Michael's blog. Michael, if you want to plug that as well. Joe Young from Mississippi, how are you doing? Steve Reed, Dr. Sandy Mitchum, Guten Tag, sir. And John Blah. Hope everybody is having a great week. And Cousin Vinny. Now, Cousin Vinny, it's me in charge of the behind the scenes this week. You got to remember, I'm a little bit more mean than Moose. So no veganism. Anyway, hope everybody's had a 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, Michael. Hope everybody has had a wonderful week. Not really a whole lot to go on with this evening. Just going to talk about some stuff. Got a very interesting. I do love Cousin Vinny, but I don't like veganism. Got a very interesting topic that we've been kicking around for a while. There's a picture that Jason Boshiers, right after he was elected commander in chief, put out. It was him and Chief, and I hope everybody knows who Chief is. That's Matt's dog. He's kind of the unofficial mascot for SCV Chat. Him and Moose, or the Moose, are our unofficial mascots. But I think Jason named him Mascot in Chief. But that got me thinking about during the war between the states, the number of mascots and animals that were used on both sides of the war. That kind of became a quasi rallying cry for a rallying post for the units during the war. And of course, we're going to talk mainly about the Confederate ones a little bit later on. But before we get there, we have to. Oh, goodness gracious! And I was going to mention that, and he's already put it up there. Howdy from Cato Parish. No mascot greater than Hank. And Hank the Possum is I know he's the official mascot of the oratory. No, we cannot. And Colonel Reb is the best at. Sorry, Harrison on vacation is trying to comment in on the show. Um, and the Louisiana division. Anyway, well, we'll get into mascots in a little bit, but that's what we're talking about tonight. In case y'all want to look it up or anything like that. Really quickly, want to go ahead and pay one of our bills for this evening, and y'all know we talk about Moose being our mascot. No, you're not unofficially. Um, Moose Fact of the Week, which is sponsored by 1175 Firearms Training out of Coleman County, Alabama. Carl Jones pays us a heck of a lot to do these Moose Facts. This week's Moose Fact is Moose hooves work like snowshoes in harsh weather or harsh winter climates. And I've been in harsh winter climates, at least from a Mississippian's point of view with Moose, and I can say that his hooves also work like snowshoes because they're giant. Anyway, so no, I'm on. No, go away, Moose. Anyway, so in doing my research, I found quite a good list of different. Y'all, excuse me, I'm trying to split screens here. I've got my StreamYard on one screen and my research on the other. Before we get into the Confederate mascots, I want to talk about just a couple of interesting little tidbits with it. Everybody is familiar with the old adage of cry havoc and let loose the dogs of war, and that comes back from the fact that hello Paul Gramling, the legend. During Roman times, for sure, but even further back than that, armies had animals that traveled with them. Um, be it horses and everything else, and that continues on to this day. But there was a Yankee brigadier general who, in a letter, wrote the fact that he said, "I have a pet toad in my tent, and I amuse myself every day by looking at him catch flies from my boots. The utility of the animal reconciling me to the idea of having such a pet." Um, just just the that to me was just it spoke out to me. I thought it was quite funny. Talk about frog eating boots or eating flies off of its boots. And reading through these several accounts, it stuck out to me just how important these animals were to men on both sides, and how they still, in one case, have a link to modern American military and history and stuff like that. In fact, the Federals, it was a unit from Wisconsin, I believe, or Ohio, had an eagle, and the eagle's name was Abe. And at the Second Battle of Corinth, or maybe it was the Battle of Farmington, but it was a battle in Upper Mississippi. The Confederates were trying to recapture that town, and Sterling Price saw that the Federals had the eagle with them, and he ordered his men to capture that eagle. That he would rather capture that eagle than the whole entire brigade. It was Wisconsin, and just it was morale boosting for the men. George Washington, again, going back in history, George Washington was a canine enthusiast, things like that. General Charles Lee, he had dogs. Again, that's Revolutionary War. But that's just how important they were. So talk about a couple of the Confederate ones. I'm going to go for the weirdest, and then go into some more common. And the most interesting animal mascot that we had is I'm going to Tacky Jacks. See, You chat heads Monday. Have fun at Tacky Jack's Harrison. Um, so 43rd Mississippi Infantry had a camel by the name of Douglas. Douglas was brought into the United States when President Jefferson Davis was United States Secretary at War, and he thought that it would be a great idea to out west, instead of using mules and horses, camels, they may be better suited to the climate. Somehow, the colonel of that regiment ended up with Douglas and brought him into Confederate service. Douglas, for those that don't know, camels, give off an odor, and that odor was very offensive to the horses of the regiment. So they could not use it to ride the horse in or ride the camel into battle. So he ended up carrying the musical instruments for the band. Douglas was well loved by the regiment. They eventually got the nickname of being the Camel Regiment. He participated in obviously the Vicksburg campaign, Shiloh campaign, Shiloh Corinth campaign, North Mississippi or Central Mississippi Railroad campaign, and things of that. Douglas was at the siege of Vicksburg, and during the siege of Vicksburg, the Yankees built, for lack of a better term, a sniper tower or several sniper towers throughout the works to be able to elevate it to get a shot over into Confederate lines. And the Yankee scumbag shot Douglas. So the Douglas was shot, killed, and there's no. By the time that the surrender happened, there was nothing but the bones of Douglas left. And if you've studied the siege of Vicksburg, it was a long siege, very little food there towards the end, and I can either eat my cartridge box or I can eat the dead camel. Camel won. But some of the Federal soldiers actually went when the Confederates left their lines, went and found some of Douglas's bones and sent them home as souvenirs. If anybody can find one of Douglas's bones, I think that it would be very nice to have that at the National Confederate Museum at Elm Springs. So that's the story of Douglas in a nutshell. There was a book that came out a couple of years ago, and Chuck Mack sent the link out to the Amazon, written about the 43rd Mississippi Infantry, about the Camel Regiment. It's a very good book, very well written. So that's just something that y'all may want to look at. So I'm trying to get through some of this, trying to go through many tabs. Y'all excuse me, keep an eye on the chat. And Jimmy Hill just mentioned our next one that I was going to mention. So the 3rd Tennessee Infantry had a gamecock named Jake. Now, if y'all know, chicken fighting was a popular sport back in the day. Anyway, Jake was obtained with the thought of having him for dinner, but he was such a fighter that other rival companies began trying to fight Jake. Other regiments heard about the reputation, and Jake took on all comers as his fame spread. Jake followed the regiment throughout the war and was at the siege of Vicksburg and lived in the trenches with the 3rd. And he would actually screech and shriek at the incoming Federal shells. When the 3rd Tennessee was captured, he survived the siege, and he accompanied the regiment to Camp Douglas Prison up in Chicago. When they entered the prison, the Union troops jeered at them, and Jake responded with a loud screech. And they said it, and the soldiers along with him would take up the rebel yell. At the end of the war, when the 3rd Tennessee was mustered out, Jake went back with them to Tennessee, and he died shortly after and was buried in a casket at a well-attended funeral. And it's funny. I love the story of Jake because one of the messes that I've fallen in with And some really good friends of mine in the reenacting community actually had a chicken named or a rooster named Peep. Peep went to several different events. For those that have were at Gainesville, Alabama this past year, y'all heard Peep. Not this past year, 2021. Y'all heard Peep crowing. And you may have seen the story, the news story made national news about the rooster getting loose in Alabama. And that's actually a good friend of mine who owned him. That was that was Peep. There's pictures of me on my Facebook page with the chicken. We actually had a good fun time with that. And he does have a Civil War marker trail up in Cartersville, Tennessee. Thank you, Sean, for letting us know. The Second Kentucky of the Orphan Brigade had a mascot named Frank, and I loved this one. Frank, the dog, he actually was, I believe, a Jack Russell Terrier, and he actually carried his own small haversack around his neck that they put his food in. When the regiment was captured at Fort Donelson, Tennessee, he went with them to Camp Morton, Indiana's Camp Morton, until prisoner exchange. And then he left, and he spent another 2 years with the Second Kentucky before going missing. And they presumed that he was actually killed in action. The Richmond Howitzers had a mascot named Stonewall. He was a Jack Russell Terrier. And he actually was a fast learner. He would potentially, they say that he would participate in roll call with a pipe in between his teeth, and would actually stand at attention until his name was called. There's also stories that he would be placed in a limber chest and actually ride into battle with the with the howitzers. Um, he learned many tricks and was covenanted throughout other regiments of the ANV, and he was subject to a number of kidnapping attempts. Unfortunately, one was successful involved in dealing with some Louisiana troops, and he was never seen again. The Richmond Howitzers also possessed a crow, and when the crow died, it was so loved by the artillerymen, it was given a military funeral, including a salute from the guns of the honor guard of the battery. The ceremony was presided over by the regimental chaplain, and it was done in both English and Latin. And we already mentioned the book about the Camel Regiment, and we've got the link earlier in the chat to the Amazon page for it. The Second Maryland, this one's kind of a well, I'll come back to the Second Maryland, but it's been mentioned already that Robert E. Lee had a pet chicken named Nellie, and that Nellie would lay an egg for Robert E. Lee every single day during the Gettysburg campaign, and it slept under his cot during the campaign and never left his tent. And General Lee never left his tent flap open for her. After Gettysburg, Nellie went missing, but Lee was not content until his aides eventually found her and perched her in the Confederates' headquarters wagon before the redeployment. One that I found really funny, speaking of Louisiana, or digressing back to Louisiana, there was a Confederate or there was a Confederate unit. I believe it was well, this one says it's unknown, but the Louisiana unit actually carried a pelican with them into battle and had that as their mascot and pet. Louisiana, of course, being the Pelican State. And the 3rd Louisiana had a donkey that would consistently try to enter the regimental commander's tent and sleep with him because he thought of they thought that that was his owner. The Let me scroll back up here to the Second Maryland one. So the Second Maryland had a black Labrador retriever named Grace. Grace was wounded in action at Culp's Hill, and she was found wandering amongst the Confederate dead on 3 legs and badly scarred with bullet wounds, having taken part in the assault by the Second Maryland at Culp's Hill. She was found by the Federals, and before she died, she was seen licking a Confederate casualty who was very well, perhaps her owner. The unit suffered 50% casualties going up Culp's Hill, and when the Federals were going out looking at the dead, they were in total bewilderment amongst all the dead and carnage from both sides. And the Union commander, General Kane, ordered that she was to be given a proper burial alongside the fallen Confederate soldiers. And he said that she was the only Christian-minded being on either side. Um, so yeah, that was that's some of them. I'm going through my um, other things really quickly. Jeff Davis had a dog named Traveler after the war. Horses, just to talk about some of them. Horses were very, the artillery and cavalry had to use them, as well as Confederate officers. The best known horse on the Confederate side of the war, or any side of the war, was Traveler, of course, Robert E. Lee's favorite horse. In fact, when I was pledging for my fraternity, one of the questions on our test was, what was Robert E. Lee's horse's name? And of course, he owned many. He owned Traveler. He also owned another one called Lucy Long, which was given to him by, I believe, Jeb Stuart during the war. And there's a story about how after the war, Robert E. Lee was traveling on Traveler down a road in that portion of Virginia, and a Confederate veteran owned the horse and had the horse, and Lucy ran up to the fence, and he recognized her, and she recognized him, and the veteran gave Lucy back to Robert E. Lee. Little Sorrel and Stonewall Jackson, you can't go wrong with that pair. Little Sorrel was actually about 11 years old when the general acquired him at Harper's Ferry. Jackson felt that even though she was really small for him, he was small for him. He liked his gait and even temperament, but she was so small that Jackson's feet almost dragged the ground while riding. The horse survived the wounding and actually lived to a ripe old age, touring the country and fairs and many Confederate veteran functions. A lot of people pulled hairs from his mane and tails, and the steed got nervous. Of course, Little Sorrel ended up dying, and the bones of Little Sorrel were buried actually near Jackson's statue at the Virginia Military Institute, and his hides on display at the VMI Museum. Jeb Stuart, one of his horses, Virginia, it's credited that Virginia prevented his capture by jumping over a long ditch. And, of course, Bedford Forest had King Philip and several other horses as well. Bedford Forest, they say, had, can't remember, but, it was one more, he killed one more Yankee than, horses that were shot from up under him. That's all that one. Sorry, I'm getting there. Mules, of course, were very prevalent. I mentioned the one about the 3rd Louisiana that snuck into the commander's tent thinking it was his owner and snuggled up with him. There was a Confederate dog whose name was Sawbuck. There's no record of what the master's name was, but he was part of a Louisiana brigade led by Leroy Augustus Stafford. And from the story, there's a very long article. He was described as a medium-sized bird dog with black and white spots. During a battle, Sawbuck was known to race up and back down the front lines, barking at the enemy. He was there at Gettysburg when the men succeeded in taking Cemetery Hill, holding the position during the twilight of July 2nd before being forced to retreat. he ended up getting lost, and actually a Confederate veteran um, wrote in Sawbucks's case, he knew what to do. John O. Castler, Casler, a Confederate veteran who had 4 years in the Stonewall Brigade, wrote a letter to the Confederate Veteran magazines to report that Sawbuck survived the war. His letter told how the dog stayed with his company. Quote, Starbuck knew every man in the brigade. If a battle ended, Sawbuck was separated from his group. He waited at the side of the road as Confederate soldiers marched by. When he saw one of his men, he dashed over to the fellow, bounding and kissing him in excitement. The man and dog joined together to go off to find their unit, no longer alone anymore. So I just figured that was, that's a pretty good little information for that. Indeed, all hail Hank. There's one account that I read, and I can't find it right now. I hope it didn't close out of that page. But a unit was captured and sent, and I believe it was from the Red River campaign. But they talk about how they captured X number of mules, X number of horses, X number of ammunition, and one fattened black bear that was captured along with Confederate service. So really that's it's very interesting. It's a little bit of history that's not really talked about unless it's on the federal side. I mean, you look at the federal side, and there's Old Abe, the old Abe. There's the dog, I can't remember its name, that's on like the 11th Pennsylvania Monument at Gettysburg. So there's all sorts of stuff, different facets of history that we just don't talk about. That we really, it's not all black and white. It's not all just battlefields and movements. There's a lot of fun that can be found in Confederate history. So that's what we're trying to look at tonight. Just in a little bit of kind of a shorter episode that we've got at for SCV chat. Yes, Sally was the dog's name. Y'all excuse me for 1 minute. I'm taking care of a little bit of business on text. All right, boom. Got to call him here in a little bit. Anyway, so how's everybody been doing? I think I'm about getting a dog myself after doing all of this reading. I think I could use a dog besides my sister's dog. But animals, they still play a part to this day. We talked about Abe some. I don't know if I mentioned it, but if you look at the 101st Airborne or 82nd Airborne, it's 101st or 82nd. That's the Screaming Eagle. Somebody let me know in the let me know what it is in the chat. But the Screaming Eagle comes from Abe, the Yankee Eagle from the war. BK Turner, 101st. BK Turner, it wouldn't be a bloodhound. It would be a black and tan blue tick, not a black and tan, but blue tick coonhound. So that's where that came from. Got it. Let me see. So we've got a bunch of upcoming events and stuff with that Harrison's going to talk about and look around. There's one event that I really want to mention right now that I'm kind of getting off the topic of animals, and that is third weekend of October. For those that are available to make it, the Donald and I have been working like a dog on the reconstruction timeline. Well, that's good, Chief Kennedy. Can't wait to see that. Of course, we've seen pictures of the progress made up at our National Confederate Museum at our national headquarters, and I can't wait for the reconstruction timeline. We need to really dedicate an entire, when y'all get that written, an entire show to Reconstruction, the active portion of Reconstruction and the passive portion of Reconstruction we've been under for the past 150 years. Especially when talking about the economic burden that the federal government's put on us. Um, so yeah, but that's can be determined. Anyway, as I was saying, digressing. For those that are within the area, especially those reenactors that want to come out and have a good time, Beauvoir, the last home of Confederate President Jefferson Davis, has its third annual fall muster, or not third annual, third week in October annual fall muster. Excuse me for that. Go and it's a weekend full of fun. And it's the biggest fundraiser Beauvoir has. If y'all don't mind, if you're within the area and you want to, have a good weekend on the coast, Mississippi Gulf Coast, definitely attend. It's kind of like a small family reunion with the amount of SCV people from Mississippi and coastal Alabama and Louisiana, even some as far away as Arkansas. Would love to see all the Confederate states represented. Would love to see all the divisions represented. It's a great chance for everybody to come together and support the last home of President Jefferson Davis. That is owned and operated. It's owned by the Mississippi Division United Sons of Confederate Veteran Inc., which is a corporation made up of the membership of the Mississippi Division SCV. Don't ask me to explain that. But it would be a great time for everybody to come out and just have fun. So if you're looking for that, there you can also see where Jefferson Davis's dog Traveler is buried. And in fact, one thing I forgot to mention is the Confederate veterans there at Beauvoir actually kind of quasi-adopted their own mascot, Polly the Mule. So if you want to learn about Polly the Mule and her link with the Confederate veterans, come to Beauvoir, third weekend in October. So yes, we've been at it for about 30 minutes, guys. I apologize. We're gonna call this episode kind of short. Just wanted to get everybody thinking about that, and wanted to remind everybody about looking back at last week's Thursday's episode, Commander's Comments. It's on our YouTube page. It's on our Facebook. Y'all go look at that. Next week, we'll be back with a longer hour episode. We may play trivia with everyone. Or I guess I could, I don't have my trivia book with me, or we could. But guys, y'all continue your hard work out there. Everything. And that is a blessing right there. That Miss Linda is doing so much better. That's a great way to end the show. But guys, out there in your you know what? I may get on a soapbox. I may not wrap up quickly, but guys, get out there in your communities. We've got a lot of stuff. I was looking at my Facebook news feed, and I saw, and I believe it's the statue of John C. Calhoun. That statue was removed from Charleston within the past couple of days, and it may have just been a repost of it, but and it may not have been John C. Calhoun's statue. But guys, we've got to be proactive out in our communities. That's something that the idea of think locally, act locally that we stole from Brian McClanahan is something that we've got to be doing. It's not only for recruiting purposes, it's not only for retention purposes. You think of the makeup of the units that the Confederate Army had in 1861 to 1865. Those companies were raised in their communities. They went off to fight for their communities. That's what our ancestors did. That's what we're having to do. And just like Ron Kennedy says, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Guys, we have got to do something. Whether you're sponsoring a Little League baseball team, whether you're going out and doing Adopt a Highway, whether you're going and cleaning not only Confederate veterans, but other war veterans' headstones, get your name in the media, get it out there, do something for your community, and make your community realize that, hey, they're here, they're Confederate, and they're not going anywhere. Our heritage battle is it's been going on for all my life. but we can win it. It just takes a little bit of work. Um, because the agents of influence, to steal something from you, Chief, is the agents of influence for the other side are from outside of your community, if that makes sense. Most of the time, they're driven by somebody outside of your community. Well, all of a sudden, if you've got a board of aldermen meeting or a county supervisor or parish supervisor meeting, and they're calling for taking down a Confederate monument. Well, if you've got the pillars of your community in your camp and they know the good deeds that y'all do because you've publicized it in the newspaper, on social media, everything like that, and your community says, "Hey, these are our guys, these are our people, we support them. They're not supporting anything evil. They're supporting something good. We're going to win that battle." But we have to be proactive on the front end. And I know we sound like a broken record, but I mean, there's too much. I hate to say, but for too long we have been our own best kept secret. We haven't gotten out there. We haven't, made notice who we are. But we've got to do it. Okay, Mr. O'Flattery, you say that the local outlets there have banned you. Um, Social media, you've got it. Make it a thing. I'm a part of 5 different groups on Facebook. Uh, Market sale, this, that, and the other. If so, my local flea market sale or yard sale page, my community page where we talk about what's going on in the town, the county one, the county that I used to live in, and the city that I used to live in. That's 5 pages. So if my camp was to suddenly have a barbecue fundraiser to raise money for the police benefit society of Rankin County or sheriff's benefit society of Rankin County or whatever we do, and I put that on there, boom, you're advertising that you're selling those barbecue plates or you're doing whatever you're doing, and all of a sudden you're saying, hey, you're linking the SCV and the good deeds that you're doing. It's great stuff. And even though you're not getting any traction with your local media, that doesn't mean stop sending stuff to them. I mean, it's just keep doing it. I mean, the you're already not in the media, if that makes sense. You're already not getting, your message out there from them, or if you are getting your message out there, you're getting bad press. But it's just continue sending that out there. If gun shows are your thing, most gun shows booths they'll sell to you, or even because you're a 501c or a part of a 501c3 organization, you can give them a letter saying that, hey, they allowed us to set up to promote the charge and do what we're supposed to do, civic outreach or civic education. I think that's what our 501c3 charter says that we're supposed to do, or status says that we're supposed to do. Give them a letter for the cost of the booth space, and then they don't have to pay that on their taxes. And there's several comments, I'm glad there are now, of people saying, like Sean McFall says, don't forget communities have Facebook pages. When you're out doing work in the cemetery, post it there. Exactly. Carl's been frying fried green tomatoes and his hands are covered in batter, but he's listening. Ron Kennedy, of course, says radio ads, direct mail, gun shows, letter to local agents of influence, etc. Chuck Mack, you're saying you're part of those groups. Yeah, I know y'all are, on there. Christian Lee, exactly. Place your events on the events calendar, and that's the easiest place to start. It really is. And the other thing that you can do is do a poll of your camp members and see what other civic organizations they belong to. So in my camp, I know we've got a guy who's in the VFW, the American Legion, Masonic Lodge, Rotary Club. I believe Knights of Columbus is in there. Not 100%, but I believe Knights of Columbus. That's 5 civic organizations. Kiwanis Club, Lions Club, that's 7 organizations. out of those 7 organizations, you can be the positive influence for your camp in those organizations and get them to stand with us. Um, that's another thing. If a civic organization is hosting an event, attend on behalf of your organization. Reach out to them and help them. Partner with some other group and try to raise. The big thing is, no matter what there's 100,000 ways you can go about it. Is try to be a positive influence in your community. That way, that when your senator or your mayor or whomever hears that the SCV is wanting to march in this parade, or the SCV is standing up because we want this monument protected, or we want stronger monument legislation, they know the guys in their backyard who are who are not what the media plays us as, and are willing to stand up for us. Furthermore, that networking suddenly drives our membership, or not our membership, but our strength up tremendously. Y'all remember the Ron, did y'all talk about the poll from Louisiana that y'all took on this past week's episode? If not, there's another video on there. They talk about the poll and just how people of the South are with us. We reach out to those other communities, then all of us, or other agents of influence in the communities, then all of a sudden, it's we no longer have the people afraid to support us. That's the big thing. They have to know who we are. They have to know what we stand for, and make them afraid, make them not afraid to support us. The other thing on it is, and I'm just going to steal something from Carl from back when we were on Tom Strain's Heritage Jobs Committee, or he was his chief, I was his deputy of promotions. Guys, we have a problem here in this nation where people are not even proud. Well, first of all, we got people now not proud to be Americans, but we also have people who are not proud to be Southerners. How can we expect people who are not proud to be from the South, even if it's a regional idea, how can we expect them to be proud to be Confederate? And that's the other thing that we have to do. We have to is talk about, and when we get out in our communities, talk about how great the Southern culture is, and how great the Southern people are, and how great and how America without the South is not the United States of America. You look what we donate as auction item. But we have to do that. I mean, we have to get people understanding and proud to be Southern again, and standing up for the entire Southland, all portion of the Southland. Lou, that is, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling up in the chat because I had a couple messages come in. Definitely reach out to headquarters about what you're presenting. They can answer that better than I can. That's that, and of course everybody's talking as well. But we have to make people proud to be Southern again. You look at exactly, Southern tradition is American. And this is all part, like Paul Gramlich says, it's all part about taking back the narrative. You look at American music, blues, rock and roll, country, even hip hop, jazz, all American music comes from the South, except for the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and that was purely a Yankee song. But you look at that. You look at the best authors, highest selling authors in the United States. Faulkner, just to name one. John Grisham, even though he's extremely liberal. Eudora Welty, Flannery O'Connor, Margaret Mitchell, Sandy Mitchum, Ron and Don Kennedy. Just the writers of literature, both fiction and nonfiction. Think about the influence that society would have lost without, or what we would have lost without them. Think about the great actors and actresses that have come from the South. Football stars that have, football players that have come from the South. We did a whole episode on football from the South, movies, TV, anything and everything. But we have to make the Southern people realize that, hey, that's just as much as part of our culture, if not more of our culture than anything else. We have to start taking pride in our culture, pride in our history, pride in ourselves, and then, and I say we, the average Southerner, and then move them on to move them back into being proud of their Confederate ancestry. Uh, one question on a poll when I was doing some research was they talked about the Confederate battle flag. Do you see it as a symbol of regional pride, or do you see them as some other symbol? And a lot of people answered regional pride. Well, we have to reinstill that regional pride back into our people, and it takes that. And what I was getting at with all this, it's just like the mascot episode that we've had tonight. It's not all battles. It's not all battles, buttons, and bullets. There's from 1607 to modern day a vast chasm of history, of culture that we, the Southerners, have a right to be proud of, and that you can use to open a conversation with while you're out there in your community. That's how we retake, in my opinion, how we retake back the narrative. That's how we retake back the South, along with what's in Dixie Rising and what the Kennedy twins have been preaching for the past 4 years. And we've got to do it. I mean, it's ours to lose, gentlemen. Um, it's ours to lose. And I say, yeah, Percy Walker. That's good. That's a good mention there. Um, but we can do it. I honestly believe that we can. We are moving forward by leaps and bounds every single day. Are we going to have some setbacks? Obviously. I believe there's a old saying I'm going to paraphrase, but even the best laid plans go to crap once the first shots are fired. Um, but we can do it. The numbers are with us. Um, it just takes us doing it, and if not now, when? Exactly, right there. We use that as a rallying cry and as a wake up response thing during the national reunions. But think about it: if not us, who? If not now, when? Um, you look at the estimated. I think it's 8 million estimated descendants of Confederate soldiers in the United States, and then you compare it to our numbers. I mean, heck, even with our numbers here on SCV chat, which we've been reaching a lot, our estimated goal is our estimated reach potential is 2 million people. 2.6 million, I believe, is the exact number. But we're not reaching that 2.6 because it literally all it takes is just for you to click the share button. Um, all it takes is for you to share it to your friends, to your family, and maybe they view it, maybe they don't. Um, looking at our number of shares, we've got a couple of thousand people that actually follow the page. Roughly 3,000 people that watch on a weekly basis, but our shares are in the 30s at most. Not saying that our information is or our show is the best thing out there. It is, but I'm not saying that. But it takes only a couple minutes for you to share, and maybe that young man who's in your church, who's friends with you on Facebook, who's looking for something, who doesn't know you're part of the SCV, sees this and decides, hey, I'm interested in this. How do I join? Maybe there's a guy who randomly, and he did randomly find us when we're on Twitch, but he's trying to get into the organization. But now he's lit on so much on fire, even though he's from New Jersey and messes with us about veganism, has traveled to 2 national reunions and several other division reunions, who came to the Bedford Forest reinterment because he's on fire for the cause. Talking about you, Benny. But maybe that happens, maybe that doesn't happen. But the simple things that everybody can do is Robert E. Lee put it best. Duty is the most sublime word in the English language. We can a man cannot do less, and he should not, or a man can't do. I'm paraphrasing at this point, but we all have a duty to this organization. Whether it's being a member and paying your dues, sharing what we've got in social media, getting a copy of the Dixie Defender or the Southern Defender, reading it, and then leaving it in a waiting room somewhere so somebody else can pick it up and read and learn about the charge, learn about our organization, learn what we're doing to protect the South. Whether it's going out and getting certified and properly cleaning a headstone, whether it's welcoming new members to your new people to your camp meeting, whether it's volunteering to pick up this new guy who lives, maybe 20 minutes outside of your way, but making sure he comes to your camp meeting for at least the first 6 months. We've all got to do our duty. We all have a duty. We have a duty to attend our meetings, to read our veterans, to be informed about the war and the real history of the war, and then going out there and sharing it and spreading it. And we've all got to do our duty. That's what it is. Plain and simple. If we do that, we all do our part, our camps do our parts in our community, we suddenly change the narrative, or we reclaim the narrative. We don't change it, we reclaim it. We get that truth back in the American mind and eye set. That's how we win. Lou, great question about the Dixie Defender and other SCV literature. I do not have Chief Kennedy's, and I don't know if he's still watching, his email address relatively available. If you will find me on our message the page, if Chief doesn't comment in, I'm trying to stall so Chief can comment on. At least message us on the page, and we'll get that information over to you privately. And that's a good one, Linda. You're right. We have to talk up our museum for travelers. But we'll get that information to you. I think there's low as 30. Donald's email is available on the Make Dixie Great Again website. So that would be makedixiegreatagain.org or .com. Speaking of, we got a commercial that I really have to, and victory flags more. Thank you, Sean. Really quickly, we got to pay our other set of bills because we ran it over the 40-minute mark. So think outside the box, man. You have an old tractor, take it to a show. Exactly what Victor's saying. There's a million and a half ways for us to do this. Heck, there's a joke on Facebook that once you get over your 40s, you either become obsessed with your lawn or smoking meat, and cooking. Think about how many guys in your camp enjoy cooking barbecue. Think about how many barbecue competitions there are in your area. Think about how many guys in your camp enjoy fishing, and are there any team fishing tournaments in your area, or golf, or skeet shoot, or anything like that? Form your own little sub club within your camp, and then send them out to those places like the barbecue cooking, competitions, with a banner saying that it's sponsored by the SCV camp. And while they're sitting there cooking and people walk around looking, they can give out SCV literature. Shaw McFall, they do a seafood festival. Y'all cook and compete in it? Because it's one thing to not only be giving out information, but make it look like y'all are doing something. There you go. Why not both? Why not all of that? So yeah, there's that. Anyway, for those who are interested in doing some light reading about the war between the states, I would strongly suggest going to LarryMcClooney.com, getting a copy of one of his 3 books, The Yazoo Pass Expedition, which is my favorite of his 3 books, because I am mentioned in the foreword and will be happy to sign it for you along with his signature. On to Vicksburg, which is about the Central Mississippi Railroad campaign, and his newest book, In Defense of General Beauregard. Be forewarned, that is not a biography of Beauregard. That is actually a book defending him and the way history has treated him for the past 60 some odd years. LarryMcClooney.com. His information, his Amazon links are on that. Definitely go give it a check. His contact information is on there. So if you want an autographed copy, he'll be happy to send it to y'all. Whenever I think he also has like a calendar maybe on there. But you can also email him and contact him if you want him to come to your camp. So check that out. Say Jimmy Hill's talking about his camp just did the Piney Chapel Tractor Show in North Alabama. Al Massey, we have a reenactment each year that's the best in Florida. You talk about a Lusty. That's on my Kerry, it is I don't know about what the exact percentage. I know the average age of membership is 55 to 60 years old. And me and Moose are happily trying to bring that number down. But guys, I guess we could talk about this. Necrosi Mills. Okay, I've never heard of that. I think that would be fun for me to attend along with Lusty one year. But guys, yeah, I guess this entire episode could be, the underlining theme is thinking outside of the box, or better yet, why should we contain ourselves to one box or even to a box in itself? Hope you like that one there, Christian. We can do that. We have so much that we can talk about to the public. We have so much that we can do. Did not realize my hair was looking like that big of a mess. But we can do it. We can do it. We can reclaim our narrative. We can reclaim our heritage. We can do anything and everything that we've mentioned. It just takes us doing our duty, and it takes us working. One other thing that we can do is, as an organization, we have a duty to, and that is to our new international headquarters and museum. If you haven't heard about all the great things that are happening at our Confederate Museum, guys, you're really missing out a lot. We're going to play a really quick ad that I'm sure you've seen on here before, but you can see everything, the progress are up until now. But where the museum is, it's a complete building. If you have a time during the week when you're on vacation and you're planning on going somewhere and you just need a break, definitely check out the museum. After this, we'll wrap up the show. So we're going to play this really quickly, and we'll be right back.
There is a place nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told? If a place, a home, can feel love, loss, pain, surely this is one of those places. Nearby is a more recent structure, and inside are the stories of heroes and heroines, stories of battles won and lost, stories of sacrifices made by the people of its native soil. A place that will tell the true and complete story of the Southland and the war fought for its freedom. From the causes that led to the conflict to the modern-day struggles to protect Southern history. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs are the general headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. A place where the story of the Southland and its historic struggle is preserved and told. Come and discover your history.
So during that, Lou Lou mentioned that once he gets his membership, he's planning on wearing his pin to Masonic activities. Lou, Executive Director Adam Southern and I are actually trying to work up an event up in Tennessee where pretty much trying to get all the brethren of the SCV together, as well as some of the local lodges to have a event outside. We'll talk about that if you want to message me later about that. Guys, I hope everybody has enjoyed this episode. I know it's been kind of got off the rails there. Thursday, we have Look Around the Confederation. I don't know if I'm hosting that or not. I've got to call Moose and interrupt his time on the coast and see if I am. If I am, it'll probably be more of a continuing conversation of what we've had tonight, along with a smattering of other news that has come in. So I want everybody, if I am hosting, and we'll put that out there on the chat page, whether I'm hosting or not. But I want everybody to go and look and just start thinking of topics that we can talk about. Ways to improve our organization. Just other different questions. If I ain't got the answer, I will make one up for sure. Do I need help with genealogy? I don't, Chuck McMichael. However, if somebody does, the SCV has a range of excellent genealogists who will be able to help, including Chuck McMichael. I'm willing to bet he's talking to Lou there and not to me. And I'm just realizing that as the words are leaving my mouth. Digressing. We'll definitely, if I'm hosting, we'll continue on this conversation. Ways how we can make this organization better. Especially if you have something that your camp is working on and you want to, or you yourself are working on to help to promote the cause, have that information relatively available, and we'll do it. We'll do it upright. Victor, I agree. We need an official tractor pulling team, and I think your camp is the perfect camp to start that project with. So yeah. So get on out there, do something, help us reclaim our narrative. Get in your community so it's easier to recruit. Remember, there's more than one way to start a conversation with somebody. We can also bring up those icebreaker ideas and things like that this upcoming Thursday. Like I said, if I'm hosting, if not, we may do it next week. Who knows? We've planned this stuff so far out in advance. Anyway, guys, it's 8:04. We've been at it for an hour. We're going to end it here. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you Thursday for sure. We may not do a rerun episode because Moose knows how to schedule those, and I could figure it out. But anyway, see y'all Thursday. Remember, in the words of the late great Harold Philpott, no Fumar in the elevator and rudder prop.